My name is Carla Santilli. I'm not a physicist, I'm not a scientist, but because of my profession, I always had an interest in the behavioral and social aspect of science. Having shared with my husband Ruggero for over 40 years his journey of commitment to science and his accomplishments in the fields of physics, mathematics, and chemistry, I thank you now for inviting me to speak briefly at this World Lecture Series. While individual and social behaviors in our society are clearly regulated by a body of laws with a system of rules and guidelines enforced by a set of institutions, so we have property laws, contract laws, trust laws, criminal laws, etc. In the case of science, we have no clear codified guidelines for the conduct of individuals and institutions. Professional institutions and societies like attorneys, doctors, architects, physicists, mathematicians, chemists have guidelines. However, the enforcement of these rules and regulations is not clearly formalized and often impossible, since most of the times those who make the rules are also the enforcers and often the violators of the same rules. This is the reason for the great importance of ethics and ethical behavior in conduction of science. Ethical conduct in science and in physics in particular assures the reliability of research results and is based on replication, collaboration, and peer review. However, there are no incentives in the physics community to use ethical standards and methods to advance scientific progress and promote the distribution and use of funds for the benefit of society. The greatest obstacle is the inability of the physics collectivity to accept the work of those who challenge dominant scientific paradigm. Accepting such alternatives to long-established theories threatens the funding of research programs and the career of individual physicists. For example, a physicist applying for a grant is under the review by his own competitors who use the secret process of peer review to evaluate his or her work and recommend the disbursal of funds. When large sums of money are involved in grants or large projects, like the Geneva Super Collider, it is easy to see how breaches of ethics will not be addressed, and in fact they will be perpetuated by including an increasing number of scientists in the project and extending programs and grants for years and years without challenging basic assumptions and paradigms. This is accomplished especially by eliminating, discrediting, and ignoring any alternative way or any challenge to the status quo, and by investing large sums in public relations and in lobbying activities. Universities and laboratories in particular are involved in this system since their funding is at stake. With this perspective, it is evident teaching and science at all levels, and particularly at the PhD level, is based on textbook or material that perpetuate orthodoxy at all levels. There is no incentive for students to challenge old ideas and to think out of the box. The impact on our society of the directives of the funding entities, universities, government, and scientific society is also evident. The scientific progress and the ability of a country to compete in the world economy derives from a scientific community dedicated solely to science and progress, and not to the power of individuals and groups and to the economic interest of the few. History teaches us that in moments of crisis, the leadership of the USA have taken bold and drastic initiatives. As indicated by my husband Ruggero in the preceding lecture 1D, in 1943, President Roosevelt promoted the establishment of national laboratories, including Los Alamos and Oak Ridge. That was in response to a need to develop new weapons for winning the war. Later, President Kennedy challenged NASA to send men to the moon, and that led to great technological developments in all fields of human knowledge and needs. We are now in a great moment of crisis, and the leadership of this country needs to address the fact that for 95 years, the priorities of funding have been given solely to programs and initiatives that were not challenging the theories of Einstein. More specifically, the greatness of Einstein theories was used by his followers for conditions much beyond those of their original conception and experimental verification. In this way, for decades, they have been able to maintain a solid grip on their academic power and ensure the continuation of their project and their grants. Instead of making progress, our country is losing its position of leadership in the world. This is a proof that the scientific community, by following old ways of thinking and making science, is failing its main duty, which is to indicate to our society the path toward new discoveries. It is time for the leadership of this country to challenge this status quo. It is time to investigate the systemic failure of our physics community to address why and how innovative, experimental, and theoretical ideas are systematically removed from the mainstream or not even debated or discussed. It is time to find out where the funding of large programs is going, to whom and why. It is time to evaluate if the current system is in the best interest of our society. The universities and the scientific institutions need to become innovative in their teaching and promote ideas that challenge the old orthodoxy and create a class of physicists, mathematicians, and chemists with the ability to promote innovation and progress in science and technology for the benefit of society. This lecture series is an attempt to give a contribution toward these goals, and it is a privilege for me to have a small part in it. Thank you.